So today I will be discussing about acellular microbes, infectious agents. So we are all familiar with the viruses. The viruses are the one causing our body, causing chaos in our body as siya nagkakamiada kitang sakit. So, but those viruses aren't the only villains causing chaos around living things. So, there are other infectious agents such as the viruses and prions. These viruses and prions are tiny but powerful. They can take down plant life and the entire animal. So, these acellular particles can hang around forever. So, once they enter a suitable cell, be it animal, plant, or bacterial, they take over the cell's metabolic agents to increase their own numbers. So, you can also think of them as a hijackers. The only goal for viruses, viroids, and prions is reproduction. The only way for them to reproduce, to achieve that goal, is to take over host cell. And once they take over, they use those cells to alter normal functioning and make new viruses particles. So, the most common host cell is the human, with the human, animal cells, and plant cells. So, these particles, the viruses and prions and the viruses, can cause diseases in plants and humans. And they've changed the history of life on Earth by changing the DNA of various organisms. So now, let's look how these three differs, starting with the virus. So a virus is a package of genetic material. This genetic material is either deoxyribonucleic acid or DNA or ribonucleic acid or RNA. This little package is carried in a shell called the capsid. So some viruses have an extra envelope covering the capsid. While covered in its capsid, a virus is an extracellular state. This means that the virus hasn't invaded a host cell and is pretty much just hanging around doing nothing. So, however, once a virus invades a host cell, it becomes intracellular. That's when the action starts. So a virus can infect a cell several different ways. First is through bodily fluids such as saliva or blood. Second is airborne by sneezing or coughing or a mosquito bite. And the virus begins its attack by triggering the cell to let it in and take control. So, viruses goes into the cell and take control. So, we all know that the basic unit of life is in the cell. So, the virus starts replicating and overreaching the cell's normal functioning, and in some cases inserts its own genetic material into the cell's DNA. So the cell actually does all the work. So the virus just calls the shots. The virus becomes a commander and starts sending out more and more infectious troops into the body, causing our body in chaos. Even though the body has natural defenses against viruses, many viral infections replicate so rapidly that our immune system can't keep up. antibiotics are useless against viruses, although immunizations work. So when we are immunized, so there are the same viruses that are being injected to us, then our immune system will take control and fight against the weakened viruses that has been injected to us. But the virus that I have discussed earlier are those that our body is not familiar to it, so immunization doesn't work. So common example of viruses includes chickenpox, HIV, common colds, measles, rabies, herpes, West Nile virus. So how are viroids and prions the same as viruses? So, and how are they different? So all three viruses, viroids, and prions are acellular particles. Acellular particles are not alive, which means they're not made of cells, they don't transform energy, they can't reproduce on their own, so they have to invade a host cell so they can reproduce, and they can only be seen with an electron microscope, and they don't grow or divide. So next we will discuss about viroids and prions. So again, the viroids, prions, and viruses are they are all cellular particles. They are all infectious. So viroids can result in devastating losses of commercial important food crops. So other viroids have been discovered that cause diseases in plants. So they infect tomato plants, which causes loss of chlorophyll, disfigured and brittle leaves. So we can see in a infected leaves, viroids, a leaves that is infected by viroids, we can see that it has loss of chlorophyll, meaning it becomes yellowish. It has brittle leaves, and its fruit is very small, resulting in loss of productivity in its field crops. So yes, and prions. A prion is a misfolded round form of normal protein found in the cell. These round prion proteins, which may be caused by a genetic mutation or occur spontaneously. So, because proteins are acellular and do not contain DNA or RNA, they again invaded a live host cell. So prions can be infectious, stimulating other endogenous normal proteins to become misfolded, forming plaques. So today, prions are known to cause various forms of transmissible spongiform encephalopathy. So TSE, which is a disease caused by prions, is a rare degenerative disorder that affects the brain and nervous system. So the accumulation of raw proteins causes the brain tissue to become sponge-like, killing brain cells and forming holes in the tissues, so leading to brain damage. So other loss of coordination and dementia. Infected individuals are mentally impaired and become unable to move or speak. So there is no cure for TSE, and the disease progresses rapidly, even eventually leading to death within a few months or years. So TSE in humans include kuru, fatal familial insomnia, and other. So in animals, TSE causing mad cow disease, scarpace in sheep and goats, and chronic wasting disease. So TSE can be transmitted between animals and from animals to human by eating contaminated meat, animal feed. So TSE in animals can be transmitted to humans. So transmission between humans can occur through heredity. So in humans, TSE can be inherited, or by contact with contaminated tissue, as might occur during a blood transfusion. So there is no evidence of transmission via the casual contact with an infected person. So prions are extremely difficult to destroy because they are resistant to heat, chemicals, and radiation. Even standard sterilization procedures do not ensure the destruction of these particles. Currently, there is no treatment or cure for TSE disease. Meats and contaminated meats and infected animals must be handled according to federal guidelines to prevent transmissions. So again, virus, prions, and viroids are acellular particles which invades